Okay, in this vid, I'm going to show you how to just do a basic sprite. Prerequisite, you've got to have a graphic with your sprite on it, and I've got one here. I've got it set up so it works with fireworks, so I'm just going to double click that and just load up the sprite into fireworks. What I've got to do to define the sprite, I've got to be able to draw a rectangle, okay, around the graphic so that I can specify that is the part of the texture I want to draw on screen. Okay, so I'll come back to fireworks in a sec. So I want this to appear in my title screen, so I'm going to go to my title container. Okay, and after I've created the background, I'm going to say new title top text. I've got my text in 2 bits, so I'm gonna create it like that. I'm getting Visual Studio to do all the work. So it's moaning that it doesn't exist. So I'm going to say control full stop, and I'm going to say generate class in a new file. Okay, usually the first one is the one it's going to give you to do. Right, once I've got that, the cursor's on it, I can go F12 and it'll take me straight to it. So I'm going to inherit, because I want this to be a sprite, I'm going to inherit from sprite and I'm going to add my own stuff to it. It's moaning because I haven't got any definition link to the engine. So if I play control dot, it'll say using engine 7. That's the using statement I want. Okay. Not much to do in basic sprites. First thing I need to tell the engine that I want this sprite to be managed. So I say add sprite this, a bit like when we did the tarmac for the background. And then the only other thing I have to do is define the frame. Okay, so I need to go back to fireworks now. And I could, if you've got separate graphics, you can just select and use the frame that it's got for that graphic. But I'm not going to assume I've got that. You might have a sprite sheet that you've located, borrowed, whatever. So I'm going to use the rectangle tool. I'm going to set it up first. I'm going to make sure I've got just a fill color, no line, because the line confuses things. So I set that to transparent. And I'm going to change the alpha so I can see through this rectangle. And the alpha you change here. Okay, on this slider. So blue's probably not a good color to use because my dog and tree simulator text is in blue. So I'm just going to change the color to something hideous like green. And then all I've got to do is move that over. You might enjoy zooming at this point. Move that over the graphic. Okay. If you're just doing text, getting it exactly right doesn't matter. When you start doing your graphics and you want collisions, then that's going to matter. So do it. So I'm going to do it rough for now. As long as it's completely covered, otherwise I'll get a bit of a chop when I try and draw it on screen. So the numbers I want, I'll put that up on the edge, are right down at the bottom, right down here. So when we define the frame, we want these numbers. Start on this texture at 0, width 648, height 57. Okay, and I'll show you where those numbers are now. So let's go back to Visual Studio. So we're going to define a frame. So we say frame.define. It wants to know what texture. So I say gm., because that's where they're all stored. tx, and it was main sprites. And then I say, right, I just want to draw a bit of that. So I'm going to say new rectangle. I wish it wouldn't do that. Now, it doesn't know what a rectangle is because that's part of the X and A stuff again. So I need a library including. So I can say dot and it's guessed that it's the X and A framework. So I'll add that using statement and then it'll be happy again. You won't have to keep doing that once the frameworks are in. Right, so the numbers which I can't remember are, right, looking back down here, 0, 648, 57. So 0, 648, 57. And that's it. That's all I need to do. By default, the X and Y position is 0, 0. So let's just run this and see if it works. Hey, it's worked. Unfortunately, the default alignment is center. So the 0, 0 refers to the center of the sprite that I've just done. So it's in the corner. So I need to change that. So I just come out of that. So I can say align. And there's various different types of alignment that you can do. And you'll come across these when you're doing other things alignment. So you've got left, top left. So it's like the 9 positions on a cube, including the center. What you might find easy is to use top alignment, because that will center it, but vertically the top of the graphic is the Y position. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, right, use top alignment, and I'm going to set X to the center of the screen, which we can say screen size dot center dot X, and then I want it 10 pixels down from the top. So I'm going to say Y equals 10. So the top alignment is saying keep the X value as the center of the sprite, keep the Y value as the top edge of the sprite, and you'll see the difference. We'll actually be able to see the text. Hey, dog and tree. Okay. Can do exactly the same for the other bit of text. Okay, so I'm going to go back to title container, and I'm going to create another sprite. So title bot text. Try and keep a consistent naming structure for everything. I'm going to get it created by doing Control Plus. And then I can go to it. Now, just to save me a little bit of time, I'm going to go to my other sprite, and I'm going to take those 2 library using statements, and I'm going to put them in there, so I'm not messing about. Okay, right, so we're going to inherit from sprite. The code is nearly going to be identical, so I'm just going to copy what I put for my other sprite and paste it into the constructor. The rectangle is going to be different, unfortunately, so I need to go back, move my little rectangle around. Remember, I'm not trying to get it perfect, not for this text anyway. So to about there, that'll do me. Okay, so looking at my numbers at the bottom, it's 1 and 62. I'm going to do it in steps because I'll forget. So 1 and 62 and 528, 57. So the height's the same because I just used the same rectangle. 528. Okay, now if I draw it there, so when I run that, it's going to be on top of the other sprite, which I don't want. So I'm going to shift it down. Looks a bit odd anyway. So let's just dump that down. I don't know, 100. Okay, so that's the basics of the sprite. So I'll stop that vid there, and then I'll do the hilariously animated brown dog.